question that we often get when parents are weighing up whether to start with Sonlight curriculum or whether to start with Footprints. So why don't you start off explaining to us, is Footprints the South African Sonlight, is what we often get asked.
Absolutely it isn't, because there are some core differences. They are both literature-based programs, and that's why we have both used them and found that they work well together. But the Footprints programs are a little bit different in that they're more of a unit study, and they have a lot more practical and hands-on activities included. The parent manual is written for the parent to give them ideas of things to do and things to study in greater detail that come from reading the stories. Whereas you can do that with Sonlight, but their instructor guide is more of a daily schedule with comprehension questions, and the emphasis is more on the reading of the stories. Whereas I think we try and make it the story a springboard to actual experiences and learning in the community or in your environment. We encourage outings to places of interest and practical things that the kids can do. So in that way, it's a little bit, it's different. But being literature-based, being story-based, they really are both great programs. And we actually recommend using them alternately, because Footprints only has 3 packages aimed at 3 broad age groups. We don't offer a package for every grade. And so Sonlight fits in between our programs very nicely. And I'll let you take over and explain how you use them with your family.
So, well, when we started, Footprints wasn't even on the horizon, so it was pretty easy. It was Sonlight or Sonlight. And then, so the core D and E, or D and E combined, is a lovely American history year. You know, that is your cowboys and your Indians and your discoverers and the Civil War, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful study to do, and it's all the things that young kids enjoy. But to do that plus, you know, a year on American civics and government, plus the high school American history, we, looking down the line, just thought, you know, that's just a bit overkill. Sure, America is a world power and it is important to know and understand it. But to spend 4 years of the 12 that you've really got with your children studying American history didn't really seem to be a wise use of time. So by the time we had finished the core D and E, so we did it, hello, good morning. Sorry, let me just move the cat. By the time we had finished the 2 years of American history, you and I had already hooked up and we had got our Footprints going. And that is when we moved across and used Footprints. And we didn't, in our planning of writing Footprints, we never sought to make it like Sonlight. We felt that the combination of that really tight schedule with all of the activities and just the natural ebb and flow of a day, to try and keep up with a tight schedule with the Footprints books wasn't really what we wanted. I think that by that stage you already had 4 kids, I had my 4, and it was just, you know, trying to juggle everything rather to let it happen as it could. So we created a freeing program where you could read as much as you want to and do as many activities as you want to on one day and nothing on the next, and not feel like you had to tick a block. So we did the American history from Sonlight, and then we did 2 years on Footprints. Then we went back and we did the Eastern Hemisphere with Sonlight, and by that stage we'd actually moved on to only using the history portion. We'd found other science programs like we've spoken about in our eclectic chats before, and you know, we'd find other writing programs and that sort of thing. So we just used their books as a history program. And then obviously with the high school Sonlight period, we bought some of the high school American books. We found that a lot of them tended more towards textbooky and an in-depth knowledge that we didn't need. And so it dropped a lot of those books. And then, of course, Footprints into the 21st Century was created, and my eldest was one of the guinea pigs who tested it for us. And that then fills that high school slot very nicely as well. So yeah, that's how we did it. And we returned to Sonlight for one more year with some of our children, not all of them, to do the 20th century. And in fact, that one was done more as a supplement to my daughter's Cambridge studies. So she had a really good focus on South African history through the two different Footprints programs that she did. And then that lovely world American focus from Sonlight. And to try and run them side by side is overtaxing. It's a burden that neither mom nor kid should actually be under. That would really take the joy out of the homeschooling with the literature approach. So when it came to time for Sonlight, we would pack up our Footprints and put it on the shelf, and when it was time for another child to do it, we would take it out and pack away the Footprint as Sonlight. And that was the best way it worked. Are there any tips that you would give for parents wanting to run the two, not concurrently, but alternately?
I think you raised a very good point about how you actually dropped the parts of Sonlight that didn't work for you. And we did the same. I mean, their packages come with, there's a lot of books in each package. And although they're nicely scheduled for you and you know the sequence to follow them, we also found that some of them just didn't gel with us as a family, and they were a bit dry or a bit boring or a bit long-winded. And I rather wanted my children to enjoy the learning experience than to sit through mom reading another boring book. And that was sucking the joy out of the learning experience. But it takes a bit of courage to have the guts to say, okay, I'm dropping what Sonlight recommends because it's not working for us, But as you gain confidence and you are able to recognize what's not working for your kids, it's actually very freeing. And then you can just pick and choose the bits that are the most enjoyable, and you customize the experience. And we did the same in the second core that we did. The one science book was also just so boring, and the first year science was lovely, it was engaging. The second year I was just so disappointed that we then switched to an immersion approach science program, which was the junior apologia, which we have discussed before. And then from then on, we actually used a different science program. And although some of the other cores have lovely science books, a person doesn't have to drop them all. But the point is that if you don't like something, change it out, swap it out for something that does work for your family. And, that's what home education is about. It's about customizing it and making it enjoyable and delightful for our children. Yeah. So it takes a bit of courage to break away from what the experts recommend and to do your own thing, but you can do it.
Absolutely. And then the only thing with regards to Footprints is that even though we believe that it is just the best, the bee's knees, and there's no need to drop or ditch anything in it, it truly, the same thing does apply, to Footprints. If you've got if you're working through a book and you're reading it and then you come to the activities and those activities just don't grab your kids, just quickly read through what's in the guide and then move on to the next thing. This is about learning what we are interested in as families, what our children's natural bents are, and that sort of thing. But I think that with Footprints, there is less of that. Even though, like I said, we are completely biased towards our program, there is less of that because of the way that it's structured, is that whether you're doing science or geography or language or history, it's all out of that one storybook. It's not, lots and lots of different things that have been put together. And then in terms of age, sort of the age ranges, just so that in case parents watching this video don't know Footprints, I think it's important to say that Little Footprints for 4 to 8-year-olds, covers that sort of pre-K, kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2 sort of phase with Sonlight. And then you could move into their world history programs. Then you could come back and do Footprints after you've done the American year. That's Footprints for 8 to 12, which is our first 400 years of recorded history. And then carry on with your Eastern Hemispheres, etc., and come back and do the high school program, the 21st century Footprints, round about 12 to 14 years of age. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how we sequenced it out.
Yeah, we actually did it the other way around. So we did little Footprints, and then we did core, I think it was A, B, and C. Then we did Footprints on Our Land, and then the American year, D and E. We did the 1-year combined program.
Okay.
And I found that so interesting because we learned about the colonization of South Africa through Footprints. And then in that American, I mean, it's the same if you do it the other way around, but then we saw the similar process of how America was colonized, and the Huguenots came to South Africa, but they also went to America, and they were pioneers and they were trekkers, and there were quite a lot of similarities. And we looked at that on our timeline, and slavery was also very much connected, you know, that triangle route between Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Yeah. So it was interesting to see how different countries and their histories connected.
Yeah, very interesting. It's lovely. It's fantastic. Well, that was lovely chatting, and hopefully this helps other parents. Have a lovely day further.